All right, today we are diving deep into the recently unsealed Jeffrey Epstein files. We're going to unpack what these millions, and I mean millions of documents are telling us about this hidden network that connects wealth, sex, and some of the most powerful people on the entire planet.
And the scale of this is just mind-boggling. The U.S. Department of Justice has released over 3 million files related to the disgraced financier. This isn't just some small data leak. This is a flood of information, and it's exposing a secret world of influence that's been hidden for a long, long time. And really, what this all boils down to is the dark intersection of those three things: sex, power, and money. These files give us a really harsh look at how those forces were leveraged and abused at the very highest levels of society, not just in the U.S., but all over the world. So what's actually in these documents? Well, the details that are coming out are, let's just say, they're both shocking and incredibly revealing. Yeah, this isn't your typical dry legal paperwork. The reporting describes these files as reading like something out of a pulp novel. We're talking about wild parties, extreme wealth, and just utter depravity. It really paints a picture of a world that is completely disconnected from our everyday reality. And here's the thing. This world wasn't some isolated island. The documents show how it was built on this dense, tangled web of connections. And the contact list? It reads like a who's who of the American elite. Okay, this is the question on everyone's mind, right? Who was involved? Well, the documents are providing some startlingly clear answers, and they implicate figures at the very, very top of the political ladder. So the files detail connections to 2 former presidents. For Bill Clinton, the association reportedly started back in the early 90s and involved visits to the White House and flights on Epstein's private jet after his presidency ended. And for Donald Trump, the connection goes back to the 80s, with reports of him attending Epstein's parties, and get this, his name shows up hundreds of times in these new files. But this network went way beyond just presidents. Epstein was cultivating connections with all sorts of powerful people: politicians, business tycoons, even prominent intellectuals. The documents even show ties that went right into Trump's inner circle, including his former White House chief strategist, Steve Bannon. I mean, that's access to the absolute center of power. And this whole thing wasn't just limited to the United States. No way. It was truly global. It stretched across oceans to pull in royalty, foreign leaders, and international thinkers. The international list is, wow, it's extensive. You've got figures like the UK's Prince Andrew, Israel's former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and even the renowned academic Noam Chomsky. The reporting also mentions photos that place Epstein with world leaders like Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Fidel Castro. And here's where the sheer audacity of these connections really hits you. Take Prince Andrew, for example. The association didn't just stop after Epstein became a convicted sex offender. Nope. The files show they were still emailing each other in 2011. That's a full 3 years after his conviction. And just when you think it can't get any more complicated, the documents peel back another layer. They show ties to Israeli intelligence figures and reveal that he was funding pro-Israeli groups. This adds this whole other complex geopolitical dimension to his already sprawling network of influence. So all of this just leads to one fundamental question, right? How on earth did one man build this huge, disturbing network? How did he become the spider at the center of this web? It's really the central mystery here. I mean, Epstein came from pretty modest origins. He was a university dropout. So how did he end up with a billion-dollar fortune and a contacts list that could literally shape global events? His rise was, well, it was unconventional and incredibly fast. He gets fired from a teaching job. Then he uses a single connection through one of his students to get his foot in the door at the investment bank Bear Stearns. From there, he launches his own firm and starts managing money for the super rich. And that's how he built his own fortune and, more importantly, his network. But then you get to 2008. And here's the crucial turning point that, well, it wasn't a turning point at all. He becomes a convicted sex offender. For almost anyone else, that would be the end of their public life, right? The end of their influence. And yet for these incredibly serious charges, what was his sentence? Just 13 months. A shockingly light sentence that basically screamed that for Jeffrey Epstein, the normal rules just did not apply. And this, right here, might be the most revealing detail of all. The fact that he was a convicted criminal did almost nothing to cut his ties to the global elite. It really suggests a world where access and what you can do for someone is way more valuable than morality. A world where being useful to powerful people basically makes you immune to consequences.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? What does this whole Epstein saga truly unmask about our world?
Well, the core issue that's exposed here is a deep, profound hypocrisy. It's this massive gap between the public morality that so many in power preach about and their private willingness to associate with a convicted sex criminal.
Ultimately, you see, this story is so much bigger than just one man. Jeffrey Epstein might be gone, but these files suggest that the system of influence, secrecy, and moral compromise that allowed him to thrive is still very much in place. They reveal a kind of corruption that seems to go far, far deeper than the actions of just one individual.
And that leaves us with the final, unsettling question, doesn't it? We now have millions of documents. The connections are laid bare for all of us to see. But is just having the information, is that transparency enough to actually ensure accountability? That, right there, is the story that is yet to be written.